Hello and welcome to the Pete Braley Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are new to our show, thank you for discovering and for clicking onto it. What we try to do is highlight some of the people that, well, you might say, I like to call them hidden gems sometimes. They are not really hidden, but maybe it's something in our area that you didn't know about, you haven't seen before, or in today's case, maybe you haven't seen this guy in a while. But our guest today has been entertaining on the South Coast for over 50 years. It is my pleasure to welcome Mike Couto to the show this month. Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Well, great to be here. Great to see you, too.
How many of us went to see Couto and Mulligan over the years? When did it all start? Did you tell me?
1963.
1963.
It all started, we were in college. There were four of us at that time.
Right, it was a quartet, right?
Quartet, yep. And we were singing folk. We used to sing in the stairwell at the school. And
where was this?
Stonehill.
Stonehill
College. And we would sing, after lunch, we'd go up the stairwell and do barbershop mostly.
Because of the acoustics,
yeah,
right?
And we'd be in the stairwell. And people would walk by us, And so one day someone said, you guys, we have a homecoming. Would you guys like to sing a couple of songs? So the four of us did. And from there, we got a gig at a school in Boston to go play there. And that steamrolled from there, So we started in 1963, went to the Bishop Stang Hootenanny, which was a big thing back then in 63. And we won it, every year for 3 years. So the next year we were the judges.
Well, yeah, we can't beat them. So what was the name of the quartet?
Country Squires.
The Country Squires.
And we eventually changed it to the New Country Squires because Cousin Dave,
yes,
after one of our victories, he said the Country Squires, and there was a country band called the Country Squires, and he was thinking we were talking about them.
Okay.
So we changed it to the New Country Squires just to make the distinction between those two guys. That lasted through college. So when we graduated, Bill and I went off together, and the other two guys, went their ways for a while.
Okay.
For a while. Sometimes they came back and joined us for a while, but,
all right.
But mostly it was Couto and Mulligan at that point.
Did I read that you learned how to play the guitar in the Army?
Yes, I did.
So you never played? Were you interested in music all along?
I took piano lessons.
Okay.
When I was a young teenager. My sister was a very good piano player. And so she would show me some things. I would be like the second banana on a duet, I'd be, and she'd be doing all this stuff. So eventually they gave me lessons, and so that was that. So I still, when I play the guitar, when I think of chords, I think of them on the piano.
Piano, okay.
I still see a D seventh, like that. Of course, I play it on the guitar, but my first image is on the keyboard. So I was in the Army. There was a fellow from Maine. I was at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and there was a fellow from Maine had a guitar, and he was a fun guy. So I said, I like that idea. So we went to Watertown, which is the city right outside of Fort Dix, and I bought myself a guitar and started playing it. So once they decided that Bill and I and the group would play at that homecoming, I needed a guitar. So he and I both went out and bought new Gibson guitars. Mine I had to flip upside down because I'm lefty.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
It was a right-handed guitar. I just flipped it and changed the strings, And we started playing as much as we could. I mean, we started out with like 3 songs, and little by little we got more and more involved.
So the Army came before college?
Yes, I went to New Bedford Tech. When I was in high school, my major was comedian. So I went to New Bedford Tech.
I didn't know you could major in that.
Yeah, I could major in that. I used to have shows usually on Monday at detention, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
But so I went to New Bedford Tech for a year because my grades weren't super, and I did really well in the subjects like math and science. But once we got into working a loom, I wait a minute, this is not for me. So I quit, joined the service for 6 months, the 6-month program.
Okay.
Then I did reserves from that point on for 6 years. So so then while I was in the service, bang, 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 smarten up. So when the minute I left the service, I went directly to Stonehill, and for some reason I had, figured it out. This is, I think, a place I want to go. I want to major in math because I knew I was pretty good at it. Mm-hmm. And so I went in, and they took me in as a second semester freshman. And that's how that happened. So I graduated with a maths degree.
And you've done so many things. We're going to try to cover this quickly because he's going to play some music for us today. He texted me and he said, "I assume you want me to bring the guitar?" I was like, "Yeah."
I didn't want to be too presumptuous.
You were a teacher, right?
Yes.
At New Bedford High?
Yes, I was for over 25 years.
Wow.
And math teacher, and then physics, and so math was my thing, and I loved it. And I loved teaching. I loved a lot of the kids are still, connected with me on Facebook, and I see their families growing and their birthdays, etc. And it just gives me a thrill. My three things in my life, if I were going to say that I had 3 jobs, it was music, teaching, and photography. Those are my 3 main.
You worked for the Standard Times,
I worked
correct?
for the Standard Times for a while.
Yeah.
Jack Idden,
yes,
he was the chief photographer, and he would come and see Bill and me play at Billy Wood's Wharf on the deck.
right.
And we would talk on my break, and I told him I love photography. I got a dark room. I was developing pictures, and it was my hobby. So he said, send me a couple of pictures. So I sent him a couple of pictures, and he put one of them in the paper. He liked it enough, And then one day he called me up. He says, "Look, we need somebody to go to the Parker Street School for an assignment." It was the day before Thanksgiving. He said, "Would you do it?" Because they figured I was a teacher. Also, I was teaching at the same time.
Right.
Or I had been a teacher. I'm not sure if I was still teaching or just doing all music at that point. And I said, "I'll do it." And I went there, and the next day on Thanksgiving, it was on the front page. Talk about getting smitten with the idea of that. So they started calling me more and more and more, and eventually offered me a job. So I did that for a few years.
It's interesting, though, when you were describing your career, music is first, right?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think that's, but each time I was in one job or the other, I became a photographer. I looked like a photographer. I wore a hat like a photographer. I carried my stuff like a photographer. Thought like a photographer. Stayed out of the way. When I was a teacher, I became Mr. Couto. I walked in that door, and I wanted to be Mr. Couto.
Right.
And that's how I thought I related to the kids, because I really wanted to be there. But then when I was doing music, I was Mike Couto, the musician.
Mike Couto,
and so that's how that goes.
Was it difficult to juggle?
Well, for a while I did. For a while,
performing and teaching.
I performed and taught for some years, but there were years where I just did one or the other.
Okay.
You see, so I remember in the '90s, the music with Bill and me, it was winding down, and we were getting older, and so I started doing some shots for the paper, and they offered me a job. So we performed on New Year's Eve in the lobby of the Standard Times. That was my last job with Mulligan for a while.
Okay.
My last job, for all that mattered, that was the end. And then I went up to the parking garage roof to take the fireworks on January 1st. That was my first on-the-job photo for the newspaper. So I transitioned that way. And that lasted for about 7 years. Then I went back to teaching, and one day a fellow teacher said, "I'm trying to get a hold of Mulligan. We wanted to play over at the Nest." It became, what was the Nest's name afterwards? Yeah, Mattapoisett.
In Mattapoisett, right, yeah.
Nathan, anyway, I'll reach him for you. So I called him, left him a message, and he called me back. He said, "Yeah, let's do it." I said, "Well,
no, they want you."
Yeah. Then I said, "Okay." So we did, and it was like packed, and we just started playing together again for another 6 or 7 years. And
crazy. Yeah. Bill Mulligan died in 2015 at the age of 72.
Yeah, July 3rd.
Yeah. What was that partnership like for you? How can you look back on it?
I was godfather to his oldest son. He married my lovely wife and I.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he married us. He got a Justice of the Peace license for one day, and he was going to be a priest at one point.
Really?
Yeah, he was in the seminary, and he left the seminary. That's when I met him at Stonehill. So he married us, and we were brothers,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still gets to me.
And you were telling me before the show that your daughter is singing and performing.
Yeah, Lisa Couto.
Lisa Couto. And Bill's son,
Billy Mulligan Jr. is also performing.
And they're going to get together for Couto and Mulligan
one off.
2.0?
Just a one-off. They're going to get together just for the idea of doing a Couto and Mulligan show together.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so they're both happy doing it, and we love to go watch them both play, and it's exciting. So.
Right. Was she always, growing up, was she always into music? Was
she
following you around?
Yeah. She was, when she was in middle school, she was the #1 singer in the chorus. You know, she's a lefty also.
Oh, cool.
So most of my guitars are at her house. I have 7 of them, and she writes songs beautifully. She really is. She was singer-songwriter of the year in Rhode Island for
Nice.
Motif magazine.
Wow.
Sang the Star Spangled Banner at McCoy Stadiums for the Pawtucket Red Sox one time.
Yeah.
So she's excellent.
Are you still performing?
COVID was like, okay, this is enough of gigging, pubs, bars.
Right.
I had enough of that. I'm going to be 83 in a few months.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of a segue. I'm still doing some things, special events, special occasions, parties. One of my favorite things was during COVID, the Symphony Shop had a series called In the Shed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And every month they would have a different performer. And so I got to do that, and that was a thrill to perform. And everyone around me, they're all Berkeley grads, the true musicians.
Musicians, right.
And when I got done, they all came over to me and told me how much they loved what I had done. And that was such a wonderful little, okay, thank you.
I'm sure, yeah.
It felt really good.
Yeah.
That was a good moment for me.
You speak the truth. I mean, it's things that we can all relate to, I think, is what's so special. Did I read you've written over 60 songs?
Probably, maybe
Yeah.
even more now.
Yeah.
But, I don't write them too often anymore. But, the last one, the cute story was the last one. We went to the Azores for the first time in my life. And when it moved me.
Are you going to do that
I'm gonna
today?
do that song.
Okay.
And it moved me so much that it was hard to write the song because it was too big. And after a year or two, my wife Joanne, one day, she put Post-its all over the house because I already had the title, Home Again for the First Time.
For the first time, yeah.
And she had it all over the place. I'd be in the bathroom and I'm doing my business, and there's a sign right in front of me, Home Again for the First Time. So I decided to sit down and try and write it, and I did. And it's still hard for me to get through sometimes when I'm singing. If I think about what I'm singing and the images in my head, it still moves me to be there. So even talking about it.
Wow.
Maybe I won't be able to get through it.
Stand by to find out.
Yeah.
Stand by to find out.
Yeah, that was the last song I wrote.
You spoke with Lauren Daly in an interview that I pulled up the other day, and she asked you about your process of songwriting. And do you still use an app on your phone to help you in the middle of the night record those thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Lyrics come easy. The music is harder. But
what comes first, or does it vary?
Well, I have to get a melody for the time being to help me carry the lyrics that I'm thinking about.
Okay.
And then I alter the melody or change it completely depending on what I want to do. But I need the lyrics, as I say, they fall into place. But I don't want to write it. Sometimes I've taken a couple of songs which were really poems first, and then put them to music. I find that hard to do. I like to have some sort of a melody that I can, sing on top of.
Right.
And then by chord changes and little movements here and there, make it a little more complicated. The Mattapoisett Inn, I wrote a poem about that place years ago, and eventually I made it into a song. And it sounds like it. Sometimes the song of the Home Again for the First Time about the Azores, sometimes that song sounds like a poem because the lyrics, when I first wrote it, they weren't like, words that every song has.
Right.
So they're a little more complicated than that. So sometimes in the song I speak because to me, it requires the voice speaking the words rather than singing the words.
Nice.
That kind of thing.
I'm not going to ask you your favorite place to play because it's too hard to narrow it down to like
over all the years. You mean?
Yeah, but you must have favorites that you enjoyed playing at, right?
Yeah, I loved playing at Faye's.
Faye's, okay.
At the little bar there.
Right.
Bill and I played at the Ramada Inn in
Saw you
Portsmouth.
there. Yep, saw you there.
We did that for 8 or 9 years, every Friday and Saturday.
Wow.
And when we got there, we played in a little pub. Then eventually they would open these doors to make more room for seats. And then eventually they moved us into this hall. And it was near the bar, but it was in a hall. Then they opened another door up. Before you know it, we were playing for 300 people every Friday and Saturday. So
I
that
know
was
you
a
played.
favorite.
You played Billy Wood's Wharf. I think
deck,
I saw.
the deck on the deck.
Yeah.
We didn't do too much inside during the winter, but on this, and also aside from Billy Wood's Wharf, I did a song about Carl Pimentel when he passed.
Oh wow.
That's on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah.
And it mentions the deck and the wheel and the windmill. Remember the windmill was out there. Mm-hmm. Also enjoyed Louis on the Wharf.
I was going to mention Louis. Yeah, I saw you there a number of times.
And it's in the song New Bedford and Friends.
And I got to tell you, the last time I think you and I were together was the ceremony for
Fred Kalis.
Mayor Fred Kalis. And you sang, what is it, New Bedford?
What was it?
Friends or?
No, I'm trying to remember it now.
Well, what I'm getting at is, when you sang that.
Let's take pride citywide,
yes.
With our hearts open wide.
Yes.
For New Bedford has a new day in the sun.
When you sang that down at the Sea Lab,
yep.
It took me right back to Louis on the Wharf. Just hearing your voice, the things you're singing about, it's just amazing.
We would go there on a Sunday from 4 to 8, and 10 o'clock we were still playing, if it was the weather, depending on the weather. And people would be on their boats, they were in their boats watching us play.
And I still remember Bill, whatever he did to his amp, he would crank it up for House of the Rising Sun, right?
Yeah, he would. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that song.
Yeah.
Ramada Inn, he would jump off the stage, and go back like this. And it was a lot of fun.
Now, you spend, half your time in Florida now?
Yes.
Okay. Bonita Springs.
Bonita Springs.
I've been to Fort Myers.
It's between Fort Myers and Naples.
Okay.
And we just bumped into. We would go down every winter for a week or so for a little vacation. And we had some friends in our neighborhood up north that live in Bonita Springs. So we went to visit them. And it's a community. It's a 55 and over community of deeded manufactured homes, deeded property. And so you got a nice big yard instead of this, and we thought it was really nice. So my lovely wife, she went for a walk, came across a house that was being remodeled after Hurricane Irma.
Okay.
And we went over there and we bought it.
Super.
So we go down, this about 6 years now we've been doing it.
Did you and Bill perform in Florida for a while?
We did on the Shamanchi.
Shamanchi, yes.
Yes. Come discover the spirit. The boat was called the Spirit of Tampa Bay.
Same boat, different name?
Same boat, different name. They put another banner on the side. And we would perform happy hours. We were on the top deck. I got a picture of that.
Okay.
And that I'm going to give you. But we would play, and then every Sunday we would go to Egmont Key. And we would perform. It was an hour and a half out. And then we just spent our time on the beach with everybody else. And then we would perform an hour and a half back. And it was great times, yeah.
Tell me about the first song you're going to sing for us.
Well, the New Bedford and Friends.
Yes.
That was a song I wrote. We were spending a lot of time in Florida back then, Bill and I, and so it was a song about coming back to New Bedford.
Okay.
And at the time, I think "Feel Better Than Ever" was the slogan that they were using. It was Mayor Markey. And I've got an image of that, by the way. I was singing it to him. But so I wrote that song, and it's all about coming back to New Bedford, from Florida. Nice. I can feel the sun of Lauderdale. I've walked the white beaches of Monterey. I've gazed through the glitter of New York City, but I'm longing to see Buzzards Bay.
Oh, wow.
New Bedford, I'll be home today. That's the opening.
All right.
And the second song, are you interested in that yet?
Yes. Second song is what?
It's going to be the song that Home Again for the first time our trip to the Azores.
And when was that? When did you make that trip?
That was 7 years ago now.
Oh, yeah? All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's enjoy the music of Mike Couto.
Hi there, I'm Mike Couto, and I'm going to sing a couple of songs for you. This first one is an old song that I wrote many, many years ago called New Bedford and Friends. It was following a trip to Florida that I had made. I can feel the sun of Lauderdale. I've walked the white beaches of Monterey. I've gazed through the glitter of New York City, but I'm longing to see Buzzards Bay. To Bedford, I'll be home today, and I'll be feeling better than ever. I'll be feeling as new as a kid up on Johnny Cake Hill for the first time. Life will be better than ever, and I never will leave you again. New Bedford and friends, this is the last time. I can't wait to see my babies go on a picnic to Hazelwood, taking the air on the wharf down at Louise, and tip one more glass than I should. To Bedford, I'll be home for good, and I'll be feeling better than ever. I'll be feeling as new as a kid at the Buttonwood Zoo for the first time. Life will be better than ever, and I never will leave you again. New Bedford and friends, this is the last time. I can see the sand dunes of Horse Neck rise to the sun over Buzzards Bay. I'll round up some friends and a bucket of steamers. To Bedford, I'm heading your way. To Bedford, I'll be home today, and I'll be feeling better than ever. I'll be feeling as new as a kid on a Lincoln Park ride for the first time. Life will be better than ever, and I never will leave you again. New Bedford and friends, this is the last time. And I'll be feeling better than ever. I'll be feeling as new as a kid eating Portuguese stew for the first time. Life will be better than ever, and I never will leave you again. New Bedford and friends, this is the last time. This is a song called Home Again for the First Time, and it's written about my only trip ever to my father's homeland, the Azores, and how it was so moving that it was like I was home again, even though I had never been there. 100 years or so ago, on a boat from San Miguel, my father's family bade their island farm farewell, and fell upon the shores of Massachusetts by the bay. And from their farm to factories came the birth of their new way. I heard my father's stories, his tales of island days, though enthralled by all his memories, it seemed so far away. Until one day in May, only several years ago, my bride and I took to the sky and to that archipelago. And I was home again for the first time, home again never said goodbye. Home again for the first time. We left Juan Paulo Airport and drove past fields of green, by rolling hills of seaside farms in a setting so pristine, to Some Rock, where my dad Chuzal was born and bred, and to the church where drops of water were sprinkled on his head. We moved slowly through Lagoa, behind a Sunday Mass procession, while curious cows watched from pastured fields, free of walls and fences. We snaked up narrow hillside roads overlooking Agua de Palm, stopped to stroll and catch the view of the cliffs of Puvahuasan. And I was home again for the first time, home again to where I'd never been. San Miguel, I never said goodbye. Home again for the first time. It seemed that every vista was verdant green or deep blue, like the cratered lakes of Setsadage, where I first sensed deja vu. And though I never stepped a snake around this rich and luscious land, I think I once returned to serve on the courts of Ribera Grande. We soaked in the thermal spas in Fernage and the waterfalls of Ashada. And didn't I tip a glass or two while dining in Ponta Delgada? I met a young man, a waiter from San Roque. I imagined even more. What if Jose had never left San Miguel 100 years before? Home again for the first time, home again to where I'd never been. San Miguel, goodbye I never said, casi de novo per la primera vez. Home again for the first time.
So great to hear the music of Mike Couto, and doesn't it just take you right back to seeing Couto and Mulligan years ago at Louis on the Wharf or the Ramada Inn or the Irish Pub, right? Thanks again to Mike Couto, and you can see a lot of Mike's music on YouTube. Just search Mike Couto on YouTube and enjoy. So I'd just like to point out once again that we try to bring interesting people that have made life better here on the South Coast to you on these shows. I still have a list of people that I want to talk to, but if you know of someone who is just a hidden gem, just wonderful what they do for our community, please let me know, all right? You can reach me, you can email thepetebraleyshow@gmail.com. That's thepetebraleyshow@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, if you want to reach us that way. So again, thanks to Mike Couto. Check out his music on YouTube, brings back a lot of memories, and we'll see you next time. Until next time, I'm Pete Braley. Thank you for watching.